Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the closing session of the YODyssey art exhibition. It's my great pleasure to, on behalf of YODyssey, acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Whadjuk Noongar from the Noongar Nation of Australia, and pay our respect to past, present, and emerging leaders. The first item on our agenda is presentation of the Popular Community Prize. And for that, we'll ask Annie Silverstein to officiate.
Okay, can you hear me? I seem to have got very good. So this is a wonderful honor to do this, and the People's Choice, I would like to announce, it goes to Kevin Clark with his wonderful work, Pilbara Sunrise Wildflowers. And big congratulations to Kevin, and I'm not surprised it's giving a lot of people a lot of pleasure. Now, are we going back to you, Greg, or am I, what's happening?
We can go back to me. The prize has been donated by Jackson's Art Supplies and will be presented to Kevin after the completion of the show. The focus of this afternoon is on young onset dementia as distinct from the art and the artist. And to that end, we have asked Dementia Australia to assist us in giving people the experience of what it's like to have dementia. These are the so-called ED glasses, but because of the current setup, we are not able to actually have the glasses in the studio, and so we have substituted a video. And to take us through that video, we have asked the project worker from Dementia Australia, Althea, to present this.
Thanks, Greg. Prior to me doing the presentation of that video, Annie, I'd like to just quickly thank you for jumping online today and just ask you maybe to give a few words around what this has meant to you, what this has meant to the Lester Prize, because I know that you came and viewed the exhibition this week.
Yes. Okay. So I'm not sure if I'm having some trouble with my screen, but can you see me?
No, we can't, Annie, but we can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, okay. Well, I just cannot imagine why you can't, but I just want to have for one second. Okay, no, all right. Well, thank you all, and thanks, Greg. Thanks, Althea. It's been such a pleasure for me to be involved in this exhibition, and a great pleasure for the Lester Prize to support the process. And thank you very much for the opportunity. And hearing the stories of the 4 artists and how they incorporate the art in their practice as they navigate life has been very interesting and very moving for me. And you probably know the original plan was to choose an overall winner for an Arts Critic Award, but it's been decided not to do this. And I think this exhibition is refreshingly not about artistic merit as such, but something to do with something much more real and much more important. And this exhibition is about the community overflowing with love and kindness as families and carers, therapists and art workers all unite together to create a meaning and connection through their art and through art and mark making. So to Robin, Kevin, Linda and Keith's wonderful art, it's a joyful testament to their journey and to the groups of people who love and surround them. And I hope the legacy of this exhibition is that more people will be encouraged to join a group like this and find connection and support at many levels. And just a reminder that this exhibition isn't closed today. It closes on the Wednesday, the 13th of April. So please encourage people to visit and put it on social media, and let's try and get this word out there in all the ways we can by connecting with other arts organisations, because it's a very, very worthwhile place for people. And I wish you all very well.
The next 2 speakers are people. One, Veronica, who is carer of Kevin Clark, and second, Keith, who is actually on the journey. And I look forward to what they're going to say. That video is sort of confronting somewhat. So the next speaker is Veronica.
Yeah, we're on. Hi everyone, good afternoon. It's been a little bit different trying to do this virtually, and we're all a little awkward with it. And we're all coming from different places. So some of us have had COVID and come out of ISO, and some, you know, we're just all over the place. So I'm glad you've been able to be with us. But Kev wants to say something. He's quite excited about winning it. Now you're on. Now you can say what you'd like to say. Yeah. So there's our camera right there. So you're pretty excited about winning the People's Choice Award, aren't you? With your beautiful painting. Are you happy about that, Kev?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, you haven't even seen your prize yet, but it's pretty beautiful. Have a little look. Have a little look. That's really. Look at this. Every size paintbrush and pencil. Oh, pencils. Kev, these are all lead pencils. You know how Mia was talking about doing the lead art? she learnt it, I think, in China. Or it's based on some Chinese artwork. This is what can help you do that. This is for you. You're supposed to say thank you.
Well,
That's pretty nice, eh?
oh, well.
Mm. Because of your artwork.
Well, no, thankfully, definitely. Thank you. Although my mind made my mind all from that. It does me.
Pretty special. It's been a pretty crazy journey, and I've got notes, so I'm going to keep looking down at my phone at my notes. So please bear with me. I should know this off by heart, notes, but I suppose the tagline of this whole exhibition is the art of living well with young onset dementia. And it's something that, and I don't necessarily call myself a carer, I call myself a support partner, or in the words of someone wonderful who a lot of us look up to, Kate Swaffer, who lives with dementia herself, and she calls her husband her bub, her backup brain. And I say that to Kev lots. I'm your backup brain. Don't worry about it, I'm just your backup brain. And it's just another way of looking at it. And I suppose because of that tagline, the art of living well with young onset dementia, we've all trained ourselves through this journey to look at what we can do and what our partners can do, and rather than what we can't. And I sort of joke and say, if I let myself go down that rabbit hole, I might not ever come out. So we don't.
That all of that is down now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been a bit of a kick in the guts.
Yeah, it is a kick in the guts.
Yep. Yep. And when Kev was diagnosed, and I'll tell you a little bit about the lead up to that, but when Kev was diagnosed, it was Melbourne Cup Day 2015, and we were never big betters or anything, but you know, like everyone, you'd had like a bit of a dabble, but no interest at all that day. And we went to a pub after we'd been told the news at Freo Hospital, and there was a big work party, Melbourne Cup work party happening upstairs. And we sat downstairs listening to all the revelry and just, we couldn't really speak. And then we went home to our son's place. We were staying at our son's, and Kev couldn't talk, and our son, obviously all our kids were waiting to find out what the news was. Even though, Kev had tests over 6 months because we were living in Port Hedland, and he'd fly down for tests, or we'd drive down, and then I'd fly back for work for a bit, and he'd stay down for another test. And so, all up it was about 6 months. And even though all the way along you're told through that journey of testing, and it's a whole other journey to get to that point, that ultimately one of the diagnoses could be this. You can't believe it. Like, in those early stages, we're making decisions together, Kev's driving, like where life's pretty normal. There's a few abnormal things, but you would never imagine it would be this. So we get home to Nave's place, and you go out the back, and Nave says to me, what's happened? And I'm like, probably the worst, right? Well, I don't know whether it is the worst, because I don't know what it would be like to have a terminal brain tumour, your loved one to have that. I mean, my heart goes out to anyone that has any sort of terminal diagnosis. Anyway, then we proceeded to decide we need to ring our girls who were, two were living in Darwin and one in Port Hedland, and proceed to ring them. And Kev took control of the phone and walked off having a conversation, and I wasn't quite sure. I could hear, there's emotion, and it was an emotional night. And then the girls afterwards told me that Dad had told them that he had amnesia, and I thought, wow, that's pretty close. But we all knew we were in for a rough ride, and we were supposed to drive back to Hedland to start work in 3 days, and you drive back to Hedland in a day if you want to. It's only 1,800 k's. We've done that before, but first night into the journey, I rang work and said, we're going to need a bit longer, and we just took a week, and we just took our time going up the coast and stopped in beautiful places and looked at the coastline and out to infinity. And we made that commitment to one another that we were going to live whatever lay ahead. We're going to live the best life we could. And I reckon what we've jammed into the last 6 years, a lot of people, might know, we certainly hadn't fitted into the years before that. We raced out and we bought a caravan, and I think that first couple of years while you were driving, first year, we were away in it 40 times that first year. And Kev convinced me to buy a stand-up board, and he taught me how to bloody ride a stand-up board. I could never imagine myself doing that. I've got no balance and coordination. And Kev's still doing it now. He's got some wonderful support workers that still take him out doing that. We're in our beautiful home in Medora Bay that Kev had basically rebuilt over the 32 years that we lived in it, just being such a handyman, working in the boat building industry and construction industry. I've gone right away from my notes, by the way, so somebody's going to have to tell me to shut up. Anyway, there is, we're in this house and we're having to make some decisions, and not knowing where to start, really. But there were things that needed doing. So Kev got to, while he was still able to and capable of, he used every single tool in his shed, and he had a wonderful shed like yours, Keith, and we're going to get out and visit you, and I know that Kev's going to go, I want that workshop. That's what mine used to look like. And he repaired and knocked over, a whole big stone wall that went across the front of our home, and rebuilt it because foundations were cracked from trees, and removed the trees and the stumps, and it was phenomenal what he did to get it into a position where we made the ultimate tough decision about selling it. We've been so fortunate. We've got an incredible network of friends and family. We've got, our 4 beautiful children, adult children. And they've given us wonderful partners and 11 beautiful grandkids who are the joy of our lives. And they bring lots of noise, which isn't so joyful sometimes for some of us. But I just add to the noise. They're just beautiful. The 8 of them are 5 years and under. So you can imagine when they're all together, and they're all going to be together for one of the cousins' birthdays tomorrow. No. You're partly to blame, buddy.
Yeah.
So we've been together 42 years, or married 42 years, and together almost 45, and it's been an incredible journey. And this last 6.5 years has been, tough, but we've certainly found the art to living life well. And like everyone in my boat, and I'm looking at Vicky, and I'm looking over here at Jude. Us support workers and UL here, like, we're just always, well, I'm just gobsmacked at the capacity for yourself and others living with this disease to find ways, which is what was phenomenal about this art. Kev hadn't picked up a paintbrush except to paint the house or a boat or something until 2019 with the suggestion of an OT. And you know what he's created that's brought him joy. He's so focused and right there when he's painting, and what's brought so many people joy. But that support network that we've got around us, our kids, our grandkids, their partners, Kev's mum, amazing woman, beautiful woman. Hi, Barbara. Your sister Jan, you know, lives around the corner. Derek. We've got so many great friends. Yeah, Jan. We're pretty lucky. My family, you know, like we had a viewing in here last weekend that was just under 30 people of family and friends and supporters. We couldn't have lived our best life, I don't think, without all that support. So we now live, after selling our beautiful home. Does that mean 5 minutes, or does that mean I've got to go?
5 minutes.
I'm getting the signal. So we now live in a granny flat that is a purpose-built home. It does not feel or look like a granny flat at all, does it, Vicky? Does it, Eric?
Right, beautiful.
But that's in front of our daughter's home, our oldest daughter and son-in-law and their 3 kids. So we've got the beauty of having, you know, support right there at our fingertips. And all our kids now have moved back from Darwin and Melbourne and Port Hedland, and your mum and your sister and everyone's, you know, just so close around us. So we're really privileged. Going back, won't read my notes, pretty confident, but if I go back to the start of the journey and some of the stuff, I suppose, that we started to notice, and Kevin might get up and walk off at this point, but Derek's right there to help you escape if you need to escape any time. I suppose there were some early signs of odd things. You would never ever put it down to memory or the typical things that somebody might think, oh, have I got dementia, or have I got Alzheimer's? It was nothing like that. It's just, there was some, you know, back probably a few years before the diagnosis, Kev was maybe becoming more withdrawn, and he'd always been a pretty social person, needing his own personal time, which helped his creative side, but also, you know, enjoying time with friends. And he started to withdraw and was also a little vague at times, nothing you could pinpoint, nothing that you could say, oh, we should go to the doctor about this, like there was nothing like that. And then I suppose there was a period of time where our family, we would all talk, 2 of our daughters were living in Port Hedland with us at the time, and one of our daughters had found a GP, a local GP, that was really great for her when she was suffering from anxiety. And so she said, come on, Dad, I'm going to make an appointment and take you to this doctor, because I think maybe that's the underlying, you know, maybe that's underlying all of this. So Kev went off, wouldn't have listened to me, you know, but happily went off with Kylie, and that helped for maybe almost a year. But then there was just other odd signs, you know, maybe some continued vagueness and confusion at times in conversations or around decision making, and you're like, well, you know, we've always shared, I suppose, the leadership role in our relationship. We bounce from one to the other. And I just found that it was really hard getting decisions made all of a sudden, unusually hard. So it's been enough of that talk, but I'll just keep letting you know how it went. So our youngest daughter came and stayed up with us doing a little bit of work up in Hedland, and she said to me one morning, I know Dad's always snored, Mum, but that's not just snoring, that's sleep apnea. I'm learning a little bit about this through work, and it's sleep apnea. So, oh yeah, cheers. Masks. And we went and had him, Kev went and had himself tested at a sleep clinic, and he had severe chronic sleep apnea, which when you Google about it, it can cause confusion and a whole heap of fatigue and a whole heap of things because there's less oxygen getting through to the brain. And there is some links in research to dementia, but you know, it's such a big umbrella term. There's so many types of dementia that's hard to pinpoint. Anyway, on goes the mask, and yeah, sure, there's a bit of improvement, but there was still some strange things happening. We do drives back to Perth, and Kev would hate me driving because I'd hit the cat's eyes, and you know, I'd be looking out the window and oh look, you know, look, and I'd just do a slight move of the thing, and it would drive him nuts. So, and then he started hitting cat's eyes. He'd never hit a cat's eye ever. And he started hitting cat's eyes, and I'd go, "Are you tired?" I go, "No." I'm like, "Okay, do you want me to drive?" "No." And then other odd things socially, even, and colleagues at work were saying, "Brian's everything okay with you?" He was in the building maintenance team, so he looked after staff housing in Port Hedland and the art gallery, and a whole heap, you know, worked on the turf club and the sports facilities and a whole range of different facilities. So he quickly became known as Can Do Kev, because he really could, you know, fix or make or, you know, think laterally and creatively and sort things out. But all of a sudden people were saying, "Is everything okay with Kev? Like, he's not his normal self," or he had to come back 3 times to repair something, you know. Gone, yeah, I don't know, it's a bit strange, but I don't know. And then I noticed that he was fitting a trailer plug to the back of the ute, and I don't know, over the years, he's probably fitted 30 or 40 trailer plugs, and they would take him a couple of hours at the most. He's colourblind, so he'd always ask me to check the things, and there was this trailer plug that it took him a week, and he went backwards and forwards to the auto shop for 3 different lots of fittings, saying, "Oh, they stuffed up. I was like, "Gee, that's strange." And socially, one of his mates said, "You know, Brian, we'd make arrangements to go fishing." And Kev had an app. He wasn't great with technology, but he had the app on the phone, and you had to look at the tides because there are 9-metre tides up there. So you had to check tides if you're making plans to go fishing. So he said, this mate said Kev would turn up 2 hours early and then get shitty with me. And Kev would come home and say, "Oh, that idiot, we made arrangements." And then I'd say, "Well, are you sure, Kev?" Like, you know, I tried logic. And we all know after time that logic doesn't work. And I could not for the life of me figure out how he didn't realise he'd stuffed up. So there was all these odd, strange things happening. And a diagnosis was actually a relief after 3.5 years of going through a whole range of odd things. And our oldest daughter actually prompted the "let's get a diagnosis and find out what's going on," because of some behaviour at a family event that was just way out of character and really, really awful. So diagnosis comes, we make the decision to live life the best way we can, and we've certainly made the most of the last 6.5 years. And Kev hates talking about this. I don't know whether it's denial or just that who wants to talk about their disease, whatever it is. Some people like to, he doesn't, and I respect that. But I hope what I've shared with you has given you a little bit of insight as to it's not just that you forgot and lost the car keys. You know, some people think, "Oh God, I've got Alzheimer's," you know. No, I think I would have been a candidate years ago, and I don't know, maybe I am in the future. I wish you all the best. I can't say enough how wonderful this art exhibition has been. For Kev, he's so proud. And for me to see the joy that his art has brought lots and lots of people And when I look at all the art that the artists have produced as part of this exhibition, and the team that I've worked with, my goodness, this eclectic group of skill sets that have just come together, bonded together. So thank you.
Okay, we're just going to change people in the hot seat, so bear with us. And we're going to invite our next speaker, Keith, forward into the hot seat. Yes. You can take your mask off if you want to take a seat in the red chair.
In the red chair?
Yes. Your audience awaits you. Go for it.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Oh, hi, everybody. Interesting, the last speaker, some of those things like denial of, what's it called, diagnosis of various things. I can remember when I was diagnosed with diabetes, that was 40 years ago, and I think I agreed probably about 10 years ago. After 30 years of legals, you'd expect to sort of get used to the idea, wouldn't you? But anyway, that's just one of those funny things, and yeah, and so dementia is another one of them. But I think if I ask my darling wife, I think I'm sort of losing my words. Used to the idea, that's right. I'm used to the idea. I'm getting used to the idea. Anyway, so what I was going to talk about is really a bit of a carry on from when we were opening the show here. And so a diagnosis of any dementia inevitably means changes to your life and relationships. I need my glasses, darling. I can't read this, sorry. With young onset dementia, early retirement from the workforce can cause a major deviation to plans and dreams, and that was also mentioned. And it's quite a huge upheaval that, especially if you plan your life like we used to think that all those things are falling apart and are not going to happen. And that's quite a sort of quite a disaster in a way, but still got to get over it, I guess. Most of us look forward to retirement to plan all those things that you just don't have the time or money to do while you're busy working, raising a family. Our midlife miracle was, I think, 19 or something when I retired, when I was forced to retire. Yeah, so we hadn't quite got to that point yet, you know. And our plans have included travel to all the remote places in Australia in our new four-wheel drive and off-road camper, which was going to be absolutely awesome. Continuing our involvement with volunteer house and school building projects in Cambodia, which we went every year for about 7 years, building houses, and then got conned into building a school, and yeah, anyway, a lot of fun. Living an idyllic life on a large country property with time to spend together in our orchard and gardens and what have you. And more stamps in our passport, although I think by then they didn't stamp them anymore, did they? I was dying to get them. And a host of other things we've been putting off because we were just too busy to fit them all in. That included wood turning, by the way. I was dying to sort of get into wood turning, but didn't really have time. I mean, I know that's a bit of a cop-out, but the idea was when we retired, I would go for it. One of the things we did do, and we did a fair bit of reading about various things, but I read a book, an inspirational book called Race You to the Top. I don't know if anybody's read that, but if they haven't, they should. It's by Tony Christensen. He's a New Zealander who lost both of his legs when he was 9 years old. And I can understand this. He was playing in a railway yard and he lost both of his legs by a train running over his legs. So that was the end of his legs. But, hang on, next page. He went on to become a champion swimmer, a black belt in Taekwondo, a racing car driver, qualified pilot, successful businessman, a husband and a father of 3. So that suggests to me that there is still life out there. There is still chances and possibilities. So, despite the hardships that his disability caused, he refused to give in, and with determination, humour and common sense, rather than focusing on the things he couldn't do, he was determined to make the most of the remaining things that he could do. And that's, I guess, one of the things that my darling wife has been drumming into me. Not drumming into me, that sounds like she's belts me. Oh, she does, yeah. No. She's trying to remember what. She doesn't belt me, no. She told me not to say that. So, we was okay with that. Yeah, so she's reminding me of the things I can do and helping me to sort of keep focused on that. And like the things like driving, which I handed my license in, I would think now probably that I didn't really have to, but I can still remember at the time I knew I had to, if that makes sense. But anyway. Anyway, this book had a profound effect on me. I realised that we need to accept the change in our lives and focus on the many things that we are still capable of at whatever point in life we find ourselves, which is sort of what I was trying to say earlier. With a diagnosis of dementia, it becomes clear that things have to change. And you can either go down screaming or accept that there are some dreams or goals which can no longer happen. But there's still many that remain possible. And so things like our camping dreams and what have you, we changed our car, we changed our camper, off-road camper thingy, into a small caravan, and Julie then is happy to drive that and tow that to wherever we go. And we've already just came back actually. We come back Friday, didn't we? Was that a day or 2 ago? I think it was, yeah. And we had a great time. It was absolutely great. Wasn't very far away. It wasn't right out there in the outback, but hey, it was just great fun. So over the last 5 years at times, it's felt like we were on a roller coaster in the eye of a cyclone and travelling the Gibb River Road all at one time. And it was a bit like that. It was, I guess I didn't know how to feel, I didn't know how to think, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know whether people were going to go at me, I didn't know, you just didn't know. There was people that said, are you okay? And things like this, trying to work out what's going on here. One of the things that sort of, I suppose, still concerns me, is when you say to people, you don't say you've got dementia, it's too embarrassing, but well, perhaps I do, I don't know. Do I do that? I don't, no, I didn't think I did.
A friend of ours, he was so relieved when he finally got his diagnosis that he would actually introduce himself proudly and say, "Hi, I'm Andy and I've got Alzheimer's." And it was almost like a relief.
I can understand that, yeah.
And
yeah, but I found that when I was first saying it to people, they'd say, "Oh, everybody our age forgets things. Oh, here we go again, oh, right, whatever." Yeah, so that is so frustrating and so bloody annoying that, like, when they find out you've got diabetes, oh yes, I've got diabetes as well. Great. Show me all your puncture marks. 10,000 of them. Anyway, that's another story. Coming out the other side, a little battered and bruised, which I suppose is what we're talking about now, Julie and I decided that we needed to face the future together, that we needed to discuss it and plan it, and above all else, we have to do it now. So it was a bit of an aha moment for, well, it's a wake-up call. Let's get camping, let's get fishing, or I don't do that anymore, but let's get, you know, traveling, whatever. And let's get wood turning and spend a bit of time together. So we moved to a smaller property in Greenmount, which you probably know of. It's closer to our children and our grandchildren, and it's closer to medical and amenities and all those sorts of things. So that saves a hell of a lot. And we've still got time for a nice garden and our canine companions. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, how they don't actually pick on you. They don't say anything wrong, do they? No, they're gorgeous. Okay, we still spend quite a bit of time camping, even though Julie does all the driving now, and I still need help to remember what to take and how to set up or pack down our camper. One of the worst things I remember, which was, I think it wasn't this camp, but it was the one we went to before, I latched the you know, the ball thing on, but I left the catch out. So we came home all the way without it hitched. Yeah, I felt really clever about that one. So now we have a little, what do you call it? Checklist. We have a checklist, and that's on the top with great big stars and, you know, flashing lights and things. Anyway, I learned wood turning and spend a lot of time in my workshop. Producing all sorts of wooden items, some of which are on display here. I've met some amazing people. Some of the things I make, actually, I don't know if you've seen a picture. I make a truck. It's 1,200 mils long, and it carries 60 cars, you know, the kids' cars. So I've made them for each of the grandkids. So, and I've made 2 now for the Alzheimer's WA. So they lasted about 30 seconds, and they were gone, sold. So I'm really enjoying that. They're fantastic. They really are. The next one's going to have headlights, so that one worked out. And I've met some amazing people in the club, and they tax me around. That's my insulin pump saying, forget it, Joel, forget it. Okay, I'm going to forget it. I've met some amazing people, and they taxi me around. They all know that I've got issues and what have you, so that's fine. So I suppose that what we're really saying is that people that count matter, people that matter count or something. Yeah, is that the right way to say it? Yeah, something like that. Those sorts of people, they have no qualms. They don't have to sort of, yeah, you know. One of the things I enjoy most is sharing my skills with others by doing demonstrations or one-on-one teaching. So I love doing demos at the Wood Turning Club, which is great. I always try to think of something a bit different. We did take up square dancing for a while. That was an absolute hoot. But moved on from that once it became clear that my brain just didn't want to cooperate with the complex moves anymore. And I must say, I did really enjoy it. I loved it. But, oh God, you know, you do 2 moves and you, oh, what was that all about? And someone calling it and you're half deaf and you can't hear. You know. So I made a lot of mistakes, and basically you win some and you lose some. But as long as you keep going forward, I think that's the main thing. Hang on, changing pages, it's complex. So regardless of all the changes that dementia's caused, I continue to look and plan ahead, and so does Julia. We'd like to do it together and agree on what we're going to do, where we're going to go, all the rest of it. I try to make the most of each day, and I do actually understand that sometimes I don't do a very good job of that. We really appreciate the amazing support of our family and friends, and with their incredible understanding. And I guess in closing, I'd like to remind you all that my name is Keith, and I'm still me. Thanks.
Thanks, Keith.
Okay.
The next speaker will be Vicky Barry, talking about a network that she is the organiser of, Young Dementia Network. Over to you, Vicky.
Wow. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about our Young Dementia Network, and it exists purely because of all of us, and you've heard the stories. The stories like Keith, who lives with younger onset dementia, Veronica, who cares for Kev, and you're yet to hear, but Alfia, who supports the daughter of the mum who is living with dementia. So for us, and what I get from all of this and what I've learned is that there are many faces to younger onset dementia. And I love that we've chosen YODyssey for this exhibition, because if you look at the word, consider the word Odyssey, it actually describes a journey of epic proportions. And let me tell you, I don't think there could be a journey more epic than living with dementia. Things were very different for me in the beginning, unlike the stories that you have just heard. I had only been married for 3 years after being a single mum for 12, caring for 2 children. My girls were 17 and 22 when Mike was kind of, I suspected that there was something going on. And interesting, because I have a background in health and social services, so I probably had way more insight into what was going on than most of the people that I was actually in contact with, which made it actually even harder for me to get the support that I needed. So to give you an example, when I went to Mike's doctor in desperation to say, look, I think he's got dementia, he swiftly said, well, if Mike's got a problem, he'll come and see me. You just go home and be a good wife. Well, I'm not one to be usually lost for words, but on that day, let me tell you, I was so speechless, I couldn't say a thing. So yes, I did go home and continue to be the good wife, because I started to chat and I needed some sort of support, because I'm the youngest of 5 children. I don't have siblings who live close by, both parents are deceased. And Mike has an ageing mum, well, his mum's just turned 94 and she lives in Adelaide, and he doesn't have any, he's an only child. So when we've shared in the previous stories, the family support that they were able to tap into, that wasn't the case for us. So in absolute desperation, I guess, I was falling apart, and actually I thought I was the one losing my mind, to be honest, because no one would believe or really take seriously my concerns. And at the time, Alzheimer's WA was the peak body, so I'm going back pre-2017. And I got counselling because I thought I need to take care of me first and foremost, like get myself sorted, get my head around this and kind of try and work out some sort of plan and how this is going to roll. So I found that I did get a really good counsellor, I have to say. Then, you know, the resources that they had a whole display of all these aids and equipment, and really opened my eyes to what's available. There were webinars, workshops, you name it. So really it was a one-stop shop. And so I did all of that. And trying to broach the subject with Michael was just a no-go because, as we've heard, denial was the big thing at the beginning, and it takes a while for them to come round. And I found it very isolating. You know, you're no longer on the dinner list. You don't get the invites socially to friends' places, all of those things, because they are equally not really coping very well with what's going on. And I don't think it's because they don't want to, they just don't know how to. So I found myself then in a carer support group that was run by Alzheimer's WA, and it had a facilitator who was just absolutely amazing and held the space for us where it was safe for us to go once a month, really unload emotionally, and share our experiences and the challenges, some of those roadblocks, and how can we navigate the system? How can we get to know the things we don't know? And what I quickly grasped was that I was hearing other people's journeys and they were much further ahead than me. And what I was able to learn from them was just probably the best education I could have got. And look, we would laugh, we would cry. I mean, and there are things I have to say that when you share in a peer support group, that you'd never share with another family member, that you would never share with a professional and others. It's just a safe space where those who get it, and they do because we're all on this journey together, we can actually support one another. And then that was I actually felt relief and felt I was no longer alone, and I had other people with me on that journey. It was really, really comforting. But then we got to 2017 and suddenly the political landscape changed, and we had the rollout of the National Disability Insurance Scheme, changes to my aged care, and the introduction of the Carer Gateway. So now we suddenly have these three different pots of funding out there being contested, hotly contested in the space, with a redistribution of funding and resources accordingly, and really nowhere for us to go. All the balls, we'd hit this perfect storm where everything was up in the air. We still didn't have a confirmed diagnosis. And, you know, I was now really without support. That support group got defunded. The key support worker that we had for Michael was no longer. So we went through this inglorious period, let me tell you, of where we were really struggling. So that was when we decided to set up the bunch of carers who would form this, you know, group together. We'd really come to trust each other and look forward to the monthly meetings. So we got together and said, right, we're just going to start up a little group of our own. So then we established a memory, what we call a memory cafe, which is just simply where we go. But we take our partners, it's not just the carers and our partners, we meet monthly. We actually meet in Kingsley and we have a cuppa and a catch up. We do a walk beforehand, those who want to. It's a loop around the lake, it's about 4 Ks. And then we started to, that wasn't enough, we wanted to do more social activities and get out and about because we're all fit and active, you know, we're doing stuff. So we have a social calendar that waxes and wanes pending interest. And more than that, what we've done is it's allowed us to connect with people. We now have 75 people in our network. We're on a closed Facebook page. We don't allow researchers, consultants or service providers in there because it is a safe space for us to share and get the information we need. However, not to say that we don't share stuff, because we do. If there are research opportunities that people might be interested in, webinars, that sort of thing, that's up there. What I love about it is we often get some curly things, like someone could be at stage of dementia where their partner is wandering at night time, and of course, you know, the circadian rhythm is really upset. They don't know what time of the day or night it is. So how creatively, how can we get them anchored, redirected and back to bed? I mean, I'm going through a stage at the moment where Michael doesn't think that where we live is his home, and that's no surprise really, because it's his most current home. He often thinks he's back in Mount Gambier and he can just go over to Trevor's place over there. So I put out little things like, you know, and others do too, and suddenly a discussion starts to happen and we actually find practical ways to help each other manage some of those behaviours. And I tend to take a non-pharmacological approach. We're 10 years down the track and really Michael is still on no medication. And I put that down to the fact that, you know, we are living well with dementia. We have the social support. We have a little group we call the YODyssey squad, and we get together and help each other with the garden. We holiday together. We've been to Albany, we've been to Kalbarri, we're just about to go to Rottnest. And let me tell you, when there's 4 couples living with dementia, all supporting each other, it makes it so much more fun, so much easier, and it's nice to sit down at the end of the day, all share a wine together and a meal together. So that really works for us. So we've really leaned into our situation, found creative ways to set up a support network that works for us and works, let me say, for a whole lot of other people as well. So my vision, I guess, and why I do a lot of the advocacy work that I do is that I long for the time when, like cancer, which, you know, is no longer has the death rate that it once had, fortunately, because, you know, we have a lot of survivors now living with, we call them that, it's probably not a good word, but a lot of people live well with cancer and long beyond the expected life expectancy. So in dementia, that's not the case. The average lifespan is anywhere between 7 and 15 years. So it is about how do we make the most of those years that we have together. And I'd love to see a dementia support centre where we can all come together like the one-stop shop, where we get the support that we need to do this journey, and where there are resources and funding so that we can feel that we can be connected and get access to the support, navigate and the systems when we need to at the appropriate time. So yes, you know, it would be great to build on the momentum of YODyssey, the art of living well with dementia. I think it's amazing what we've accomplished in the 2nd year. We've gone from, you know, Rob's legacy and Mark and Greg and Marie's vision to now expanding it to include 4 artists. And we've given it a place. We've got the visibility now in the public domain, raising awareness and giving faces to people living with young onset dementia. So I'll leave it there and let's see what next year will bring. And now I'm going to leave you with the next person is Althea is going to present to us. I think Althea, around your mum's journey and yours with supporting her living with dementia. So
all those little things that just kind of seemed not really relevant suddenly came into focus. Of those were the signs and symptoms. You know, my brother saying that he went, so year 12, he was 17, I was 18, and he went to a quiz night with her and he was like, oh mum, you know the answer to this. And she got really cold and was like, no, sorry. And he was like, in his mind going, nah, you definitely know. But she didn't. And so again, at the time, my brother was just like, oh, she's just having a bad day, whatever, you know, and brushed it aside. But you don't realise when they're all little incidental things that we experienced individually. And then once she had the referral to the memory clinic and we knew something was happening, we came together and started discussing it, and we were like, oh gosh. So, you know, suddenly there were, you know, like I said, 3 or 4 years worth of incidents that we went, yeah, okay. Ooh. So
So how did you feel about that when you got to that point?
Traditional Althea style, I really wanted to say I told you so, but I didn't. I think that was my immediate reaction of relief because I knew that something wasn't right, and I was like, I knew, like that's what I had been Googling and that's what I thought. And so initially it was good to have a label to put on it so that we knew what it was and we knew how to work with it. I think after about 6 months to a year, I became acutely aware that it was going to get worse and it was never going to get better, and that my mum's experience and our family's experience was really different. Mum's been on this journey for 17 years. 17 years ago, there weren't a lot of other families like us. You know, I would say my mum's been diagnosed with dementia, and all of my friends say, oh, my grandma's got that, or my granddad's got that, or my great-grandma's got that. And that's really, it's a real big disconnect because I'm like, well, this isn't my grandparents, this is my mum. You know, she was in her early 50s, and for us as a family, that was really tricky because we weren't able to get any support through aged care packages because she wasn't old. And at that stage, NDIS didn't recognise it. You know, or it wasn't NDIS, but the National Disability Scheme that was there didn't recognise dementia. And so it just became this juggle for our family of, okay, mum doesn't need help right now, but she can't work, so dad still had to work. What can we do? Making ourselves available for mum if she needed us. Like I remember being, I was working part-time at cafes and stuff when I was at uni, and I just remember knowing that I had to answer the phone when mum called, otherwise she would just get in a flap. And so I'd be there and, you know, be like, oh, Althea, I can't find, you know, a certain object. And I thankfully knew my parents' house really well, and I would be able to go, okay, you need to go into this room and can you see that? And she'd say yes, and I go, okay, look above that on the shelf, and oh, thank you, Althea. And you know, the times I wasn't able to do that, it was, you know, as things progressed, like I used to have to come home, and I'd come home in my lunch break. So thankfully I was living with my parents, and I only worked like 10-15 minutes down the road, so I'd come home and I would have lunch with mum, and then I'd go back to work in the afternoon, and that was enough for her to kind of have that space.
That sugar day.
Yeah.
So mother's diagnosed in her early 50s, and that would these days classify the dementia as young onset dementia.
Yeah.
When did you become aware that that's different from normal dementia?
Define normal dementia. I think for us, we were pretty much aware straight away because every support group that we went to, everyone was 15, 20 years older. You know, I used to joke with my parents, I was like, oh, we brought the average age down. You know, Dad and I used to alternate attending with mum. And so mum would always go, and it would be either myself or dad that would go with her. And we just couldn't relate to a lot of the content that was being discussed. So, you know, when you're in your 70s and 80s and even 90s, you're at a really different stage of life. You know, my parents still were paying off their mortgage, for example. Whereas these guys were fully retired and didn't have a mortgage, or, you know, were living in lifestyle villages, or, you know, it was really different. And although me and my brother were not really dependents, we were only just kind of out of the nest, so to speak. So we were still kind of checking in with our parents for life decisions and things because we were only still quite young. So the challenges for mum were mainly centred around confidence and the ability to kind of assert herself, you know, she was still very capable, even up until 6 years ago, but she just lacked confidence. And that confidence came from the fact she didn't look like she had dementia. And so, you know, small examples of going to the cinema with mum to see a movie, and she had a companion card which entitles the person who has the card to get someone with them free, because they can't, you know, mum couldn't sit in a cinema and find her way out again. And so she'd present the companion card and she'd say, you know, 2 tickets to, you know, the movie. And the girl looked at the companion card and looked at my mum and said, do you need this? And I'm like, well, yeah, otherwise she wouldn't have it. But moments like that, you could just see my mum's confidence decrease. And so although she was very physically able, like she didn't have anything physically wrong with her, she was still going to the gym 3 times a week, doing, you know, power walk laps around her block. Mentally, she just couldn't keep up. And I think that's what the real difference was for us, because we were in groups that had people that were older, and so they had physical ailments as well, which we didn't have. And it wasn't until probably about 5 or 6 years into mum's journey that they actually set up a younger onset dementia program, and they went away. So mum and dad went away with 5 other couples on a weekend retreat. That weekend was a real turning point for us as a family, and especially for my mum, because she was able to see that she wasn't alone. Often the time, you know, she's like, oh great, I'm, you know, lumped in. She never wanted to have respite. She never wanted a carer, because that's what old people had. And suddenly this weekend away was 5 other people who were in exactly the same position. They were similar age, and it was suddenly, someone gets me, someone understands. And for myself and my dad, it was the same. We were suddenly going, oh my gosh, you know, there's children that are my age that are, you know, younger carers, and we actually started a Facebook group of younger carers. So there was all these people in their 20s who were caring for their parents, and, you know, we could have, because it's, you know, when you become an adult, you're doing things like, you know, you're looking at cars and houses and life partners, and all of those major decisions suddenly become impacted because you've got this overarching desire to care for your family and your mum. And every time I would see someone, I'd be like, oh, is this someone that can handle the situation that I'm in? And I mean, thankfully, I did manage to find someone. But, you know, it's really confronting for other people as well. So friends, you know, thankfully, you know, my mum and dad have this amazing couple, Bob and Dawn. Hi. They have been like rocks for my parents, always calling up. It's never too much trouble. And, you know, but I mean, for mum's 70th birthday, she had 3 friends at her party. And like, for someone who's a huge, big socialite, that's massive, you know? And that's the impact of dementia. And it's not because her friends are mean or horrible or don't want to, you know, see her. It's that the confronting image of my friend has changed, and I don't know, can I still be myself? And I think for me, the biggest thing was seeing mum become a dementia advocate. Like she was a dementia advocate for about 4 or 5 years, and she travelled over east, interstate, to, you know, conferences and even international conferences to talk about her experience, and that was just amazing.
So thank you, Althea. That effectively concludes today's proceedings. In conclusion, I'd like to remind everybody that the workshops are being rescheduled And the dates have not yet been decided, but when they are decided, they'll be advertised on our social media networks, including Facebook, YODyssey Perth, our Instagram site, YODyssey WA, and our website, yodyssey.com.au. The actual show will be unpacked on Wednesday this week, so the art is still available for you to see. And sales of the artwork, sales of prints of the artwork, and sales of the famous Purple Wildflowers t-shirt will proceed this week, and it can be bought online. So thank you everyone for attending, and see you next year.